What's up, guys? Welcome to the Total Human Optimization Podcast. Today, we have Cameron Josse, Director of Sports Performance at the DeFranco's Gym at the Onnit Academy. And then we also have John Wolf, the Director of Fitness Education at the DeFranco's Gym at the Onnit Academy as well. Welcome, guys.
It's a mouthful, huh?
It's a lot to say. So today, we're going to talk about getting huge. How can we get big? I'm trying to get into WWE. I need to put on some muscle. These guys are going to be way bigger than me. I walk into DeFranco's Gym at the Onnit Academy. You guys see me, not so big of a guy. What are you guys going to do to help me out? What are you guys going to do to put some size on me?
Well, getting jacked is definitely a Jersey thing.
It's a Jersey thing.
I'll defer to my Jersey boy for this right here.
Well, I'm sure it's not too much of a foreign fact that DeFranco's was originated in New Jersey. So moving down here to Austin, we got to bring a little bit of Jersey swag with us. So, when it comes to getting jacked and getting swole, name of the game is just knowing what to do right in the weight room and knowing how to lift the weights the right way and knowing how to perform the movements properly, all the above, and then just understanding how to really program and also eat the right way in order to continue to pack on some muscle and kind of take that next step in that phase of getting huge, so to speak, right?
Okay, so I walk in, I know nothing, and like most guys, like I just want to get in there and I want to start lifting really, really heavy weights because I don't want to look like a pussy in front of everyone, right? Mm-hmm. So, what is the first steps you're going to take with somebody new that has limited bodybuilding skills and just steps straight into the gym? What's the first steps?
Well, I think it's important to realize that the way you train somebody who's just walking in the gym, who has a lack of experience with weights or whatever it might be, with exercise in general, you have to take a completely different approach with them than you would somebody who's been lifting for years. Right? It seems obvious, but I think people tend to forget that. Is you have a lot of people that walk into the gym and they'll have a printed out program that was based on some bodybuilder that's 10 years in the game, right? And he's got this program that he does, and they think, well, maybe I'll just do what the best person does, right? It doesn't make sense because that newbie, novice, so to speak, is not going to be nearly at the same level as the guy who's trained for the last 10 years or so. So I think it's important that people need to understand that there's a starting point when you're starting with novices, and it's going to be very different than when you're dealing with somebody who's a little bit more advanced, who's been training for a lot more years. So you have anything to add?
Well, yeah, ultimately, it's kind of interesting because when we started DeFranco's Gym at the Onnit Academy, it's really the union of a couple of very different philosophies. But in getting into the same house, what we realize is more and more we see eye to eye on all the big, most important parts of the systems, right? And so movement has to be a prerequisite, or the ability to move well, the ability to move through basic fundamental patterns and not jack yourself up doing, like you said, like trying to show up and trying to compete with people. You have people on the strength board over here at DeFranco's that play in the NFL. You're not going to walk in the door and say, hey, I'm going to go after Brian Cushing's bench press record here.
I don't think anybody should do that.
Well, and the thing about it is whether you're in the DeFranco system or whether you're in the Onnit Academy system, when you show up, we want you to move well. We want you to learn how to move well, and we want you to invest time in that process. So even if you want to get big, you're working fundamental lifts, basic deadlift, basic squat. And when you can sustain those things, that's great. That's just the time where we get to take you to the next step. But the reality is, if you're brand new, minimal amount of stimulus is going to get you the best return on investment as well, because recoverability is a big factor when you're starting out. And when you start out, the beautiful thing is pretty much any stimulus is going to elicit a response. So, I could do half an hour mobility and a couple sets of squats and bench, or deadlifts and pull-ups, or however I want to program those type of things. And the basic fundamental lifts that carry over to everything else. And you're going to get some size. You're going to get some size when we talk about compounding that with some basic nutrition principles. And in the case of someone smaller and trying to get big, it's pretty simple. Eat.
Yeah. So, as we live in a world that's very impatient with, social media, we want everything quickly now. We want all our information fast, and then we want our results fast. So, I think that's maybe why a lot of people go in and just start pushing heavier weight than they're ready for straight off the bat, is because they think that's going to be the instant gratification to put on that exercise. So I guess my question is, what's a standard healthy amount of weight of muscle you can add in a week? Like what's a realistic timeline for something like that?
Well, first of all, the one thing that needs to be stated in this particular topic is that training, if you're really trying to accomplish something well with training, it needs to be understood that it's never going to be a quick fix. It's something that, if you look at anyone who's the best at anything they do in any kind of athletic or physical activity, they've been doing it for years. It's a slow cooking process, and it's the way it is. Doesn't mean you can't get results relatively quickly though. So I think the most important thing is, going along with what John was saying, is that as long as you're able to take somebody when they're beginning, or really anybody, and being able to allow them to do the movements in the gym or wherever it might be, any type of exercise, and making sure that they're able to perform it properly and with good technique, and that they're doing it safely, they're going to see results exponentially faster than they would if they were doing it improperly, right? Because they're utilizing their body the way it's supposed to be used. In terms of how long the process takes, realistically, everything I've ever read, based upon how long it really takes to notice very, very significant gains in muscle hypertrophy, which is muscle size, muscle gain, usually takes at least about 5-6 weeks. So it's really something that is, if you look at the body and how it works from a scientific standpoint, right, like a biological, physiological standpoint, your body takes time. It's like building a structure with an engineering crew. It takes time to get those resources and put the structure together. So your body's literally building itself, right? Body building. So it takes time to develop those resources and also just build that newfound structure, because you're quite literally building your body into something else. So it takes a little bit of time, and people need to kind of realize that.
Yeah, and so, one thing as I've kind of read up and trying to figure out my plan, what I should be doing, and I should just go talk to you guys. You guys are right next door. Why don't I just do that, right? Taking breaks. I come from a philosophy of working out where if I don't feel like I've killed myself, I don't feel like I've done anything. And if I take a day off, I feel like I'm holding back progress in my fitness in some way. So how important is rest? As I've noticed, a lot of these plans have a lot of rest days for bodybuilding. Yeah. How important is that rest, and what exactly is happening during that period of time?
Well, I think that both Cameron and I, this would be a really hot topic for us both. I'm a big advocate of being active every day, but that doesn't mean weight training every day. It means varying the intensity, type, and duration of stimulus in a variety of different contexts, so that you can stay motivated and you feel like you're staying on track, right? But some of those days, they're rest days. What does rest mean? It really just means giving the body time to recover from the initial stimulus, whatever that was. So the beautiful thing about being in a system like what we have here, where we have DeFranco's in-house, we have Black Swan Yoga, we have access to a lot of these things, you can vary the stimulus and still be recovering really well from your strength efforts, which, to be honest, that's going to be the meat of what you need to do to get jacked, right? So, but rest can also mean sleep, and most people that don't get the results they want, they're high stress, they're not recovering well, and they're not sleeping nearly enough.
So how much sleep we talking about? What's a good amount of sleep?
Well, the whole 8 hours thing is a big standard, right? But you'll hear a lot of bodybuilders, they sleep 10 or 12 hours a day. They nap, because that critical time is when you're going to actually be doing all the building, that Cameron was talking about. You're not building muscle when you're awake, and not building muscle when you're training. You're building muscle when you're sleeping.
Okay. So another thing that I've kind of heard is that cardio is a detriment to building muscle. Is that a real thing? Because as a soccer player, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's like anything else in the body. You have to look at how a certain type of stimulus will affect your body, right? So if you're lifting weights, the results of what happens in your body with your hormones, all of the different chemical responses of what's going on, it's going to be a lot different than when you perform aerobic work or cardio, so to speak, right? So when people talk about cardio, really what they're talking about for the most part is aerobic activity, being able to keep their heart rate elevated for a long period of time, things like that. So if you look at sort of how each type of exercise affects the other, the general consensus is that when you're lifting weights, you have an anabolic response, right? So you're creating a muscle building environment. And then when you're performing high volumes, and I make that a stress where I say high volume, when you're performing high volumes of cardio, where you're doing a lot of aerobic work, it tends to have a generally catabolic effect on your muscles. So it's pretty simple to see, because a marathon runner is not going to look anything like a powerlifter, right? So
and soccer players are generally really, really lean.
Right.
And skinny.
They run about a marathon a game.
Yeah.
Right?
So, soccer player is never going to be as jacked as your middle linebackers.
So I have to quit playing soccer if I want muscle.
No, see, like that's the other thing now, is you have to understand, like going along with what we're saying, is that it's a balance and a balancing act of whatever your goals are in terms of your performance. You have to understand that, is it impossible to build muscle because I play soccer? Absolutely not. Is it impossible to build muscle because I like to run a lot? Absolutely not. So, we talk about strength training and lifting weights. It's important for obviously people that do powerlifting, football, things like that, but it's still equally as important for somebody that's a marathon runner. It's just that the volumes are going to change with what's going on. So it's all dependent on what your final goal is. So if you're performing high volumes, or you're doing a lot of cardio work, you're going to eventually have to sacrifice some muscle mass, and that's just sort of the reality of the effects of that type of exercise. But, there's plenty of football players that are huge and jacked, and they're in great shape. So, it's just all about, you have to understand, like, what's the more important stimulus for what my goal is, and then that's what I need more volume of that. And then there's always going to be a secondary quality, especially if you're somebody, a soccer player or a team sport athlete or something like that, where a soccer player, you have to be cardiovascularly in shape. Like, you can't play a sport unless you're in shape. It's just the way it is. So you have to make sure that that's accounted for. And then if you want to add some muscle mass, then that's going to end up being another quality that falls along that continuum of training. But you just have to make sure you understand what you need to achieve your goal, and then kind of take that next step in terms of designing your program to fit around all of those different qualities that you're trying to develop, and make sure that one doesn't inhibit the next, or whatever might be based upon what you're trying to do.
Well, I think this is what's up, Orlando. What Cameron said is all true. And what you got to ask yourself is, you want to be a WWE wrestler, or do you want to be a fucking soccer player? Okay? Because you're already a soccer player, but you're not a WWE wrestler.
What if my character is a soccer player?
You could walk in there and Soch in the middle of the ring. You know what I mean? Maybe you could play with your partner. Whoever drops the soccer ball first loses.
Yeah, we were joking that I should be like in the midget division, and then just be a giant in the midget division.
Hey, bro, that's where you want to be.
Orlando
the Giant.
You're already jacked enough for that.
Yeah, then I'll be a monster.
Well, but ultimately, yeah, this whole cardio thing, yeah, the type of stimulus, the duration, the intensity, that's going to be a big variable. If you're trying to get big, you're going to stick to, if you want to be athletic, you still probably want to do some high intensity, short distance running, because it's human movement, man. If you can't run, you're not very effective mover, no matter how well you do other things. It's basic human locomotion, right? But if you are a soccer player, you're running for hours, and it's really going to be hard to counteract that with food and enough strength training to override that stimulus, right? That's what you're biasing your body to be: more effective, more efficient on a soccer field. You spend a lot of time out there. And so, if you were going to do cardio type of stuff, or that type of activity, a lot of times if someone wants to get jacked, lift heavy, focus on quality of movement when you're lifting, because then you're strengthening the the proper movement patterns. I think that's what most people just don't realize is like there's a lot of strong people that are strong in dysfunctional movement patterns. They look like a Neanderthal, round back, head forward. Like they look angry because they're freaking tense, bro. They're like they don't move very well. And so what's really nice is that recovery side, the cardio side can kind of complement each other. Instead of doing, long distance running for a long period of times, maybe you get out there and you do something that gives you the same type of enjoyment. Get onto some hills, which we have kind of like small little tiny hills out here. Out in Cali, we have these things called mountains.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you start walking, and next thing you know, you're up at the top of these fucking mountains, and you're looking over, beautiful
and
scenery.
You're up there howling at the moon.
Bro, I howl every chance I get. You're lucky I haven't started howling on this podcast yet. But yeah, I mean, you could vary the type of stimulus and intensity. Walking is really good because it's not going to burn off a lot of muscle. It doesn't require a lot of energy compared to long distance running. And so in that way, your body doesn't draw on the reserves of thinking like, man, you know what? If I want to keep running, I can't carry all this muscle because it costs a lot to keep this muscle fueled, right? Where walking, you don't require a lot of muscle to walk, but you do burn energy. It can help you stay lean, help you stay active, help you recover. So sometimes if you say like for you, maybe that would be some of the things that I would think of. Okay, maybe I play soccer once a week rather than 3 times a week. I go out and walk if I need to get outside because being outside is, something that a lot of soccer players.
So on that same note, building muscle, spending a lot of time in the gym, lifting heavy weight, and you're the best guy to ask about this. How do you stay mobile? What are some things you can do to stay mobile?
Well, hey, that's another thing. Actually, what's really cool about having DeFranco's in-house and then all the stuff that I bring is we both place huge value on mobility. So, I mean, I think that even Triple H would say, like the difference between what he did before he started training DeFranco's and after, he's like, I was a big dude, and now I'm a big dude I'm an athlete. I mean, he was an athlete at both times, but he feels like an athlete, and that has to do with your ability to move, your mobility. And the only thing that helps your mobility is working on your mobility. Yeah. It's not super sexy, it's not super fun, but you could do it 10 minutes at the beginning of your day. You could do it, it's best broken up into little bite-sized pieces from what I would recommend, because you don't want to get to the gym and spend an hour rolling around on a foam ball or a roller and then be like, okay, you're back to that old programming where you're kind of like at the gym for 2 hours to get a workout. I mean, brevity, intensity, focused effort broken up into a variety of little pockets, generally your body's going to respond to really well. So I do some mobility in the morning, maybe some foam rolling in the afternoon for postural correction, and then a little stretching at night.
Yeah, just low intensity stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just know what's going to get the most output. So like if someone has jacked up shoulder posture, then we're going to be focused on that kind of stuff. Some people have, hips that don't move, so we're going to focus on their hips. So even if they're not doing the whole body, they're going to focus on what they get the most out of it. And generally that's going to be what you need a coach for, is to be able to see what it is that's going to get you the best return on investment. So best return with minimal amount of time. And that's going to keep you feeling good, right? Because you're like, fuck, I only do 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 10 minutes there, but I feel great and I'm getting jacked. I'm spending 45 minutes on my strength training session, but I don't feel like I'm grueling, I'm in a grueling situation at the gym where I'm stuck there for 2 hours. You take it all in bite-sized pieces and keep that momentum going. Like you said, you want to be doing something every day. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, I think Cameron will tell you right off the bat, how often did a lot of the combine guys feel like completely demolished in the time that they were here?
Yeah, so for people that don't know, Cameron, he works with college athletes that are training for the NFL Combine. So we here at DeFranco's gym at the Onnit Academy, we just had our first crop of athletes go through. And I just wanted to point that out. So go ahead with your statement.
Yeah. So I mean, going along with everything John was saying, part of the struggle when it comes to being mobile, quote unquote, is people having mobility. It's not just it's not just stretching, it's not just foam rolling. It's really just being able to achieve and own certain positions, right? So if you look at athletics, it's like there's a huge variety of different positions that these athletes have to be able to own and take ownership of. So it's not enough to just say, okay, your squat looks good, your hinge looks good, things like, it's just a whole wide spectrum. But if you can take kind of a global approach, which is kind of what we do here, is stressing what we were saying before about just the movement quality of everything that we do. So you can get a ton done just from a mobility standpoint without even really taking a lot of time to foam roll and all that stuff. Like that stuff certainly is it's a necessity. But even without all that, as long as you just focus on warming up and getting your body warm, and then getting yourself into certain positions and taking the time to slow cook that process, where you're not loading up a barbell with a ton of weight when the movement itself is dysfunctional, right? So you want to make sure that what they're able to do with the bar on their back or with the weights in their hand is completely biomechanically efficient. So it's able to it's safe, and it's also efficient with how they're moving. That goes so far for athletes. For me personally, it was something I didn't really take too much notice of until I got into this field.
Yeah.
When I was an athlete, I played in college and everything like that. I just was like, okay, I'm just going to do these movements, whatever. I'm just going to sprint. I'm just going to lift. I didn't really think about how I was doing those things. So when I took and then I always had, nagging joint pains, like, okay, my shoulder hurts, my lower back hurts, my knee hurts, whatever it might be. It's just achy because I wasn't paying attention to the quality of what I was doing. So now that I'm in this field, I'm trying to take athletes like our combine athletes or our high school athletes especially, because if you can get them when they're younger, that's the best way to get it, is teach them these positions, teach them how to sprint the right way, teach them how to jump, how to land, how to cut, things like that. If you can teach them how to do all these things, how to lift and everything like that, as long as the movement is sound and quality, you're going to put them in a much safer, more efficient overall environment. So for guys training for something like the NFL Combine or something like that, it goes a long way just being able to teach them the stuff that they might have never learned, which is just how to do these things with good quality of effort and good movement patterns.
Yeah. So, of course, with all that great information, probably the biggest part of this whole thing is nutrition. What are we eating here? I mean, of course, you always hear you have to eat a ton of calories, you got to eat a ton of protein. What's the setup for building mass?
Eat.
Just eat.
No, well, I mean, the big thing is
Not 10 pizzas a day, obviously.
No, I mean, there's a qualitative factor, obviously, right? I mean, being here at Onnit, you're talking about optimization. And so, it's not just eat indiscriminately. Don't go to, the local supplement store and get the crazy weight gainer with 500 simple carbohydrate calories. And, I mean, that's fine and dandy. But to be honest, I'm not a specialist in getting people so huge that they can win a bodybuilding contest or anything like that. But that's kind of the look you're going for. And so in that way, it is best to borrow from those people that specialize in that type of transformation. If you're trying to get huge, you know what? The big thing about it is take what works and then make sure that you improve upon the things that might be putting you at risk. So bodybuilding, generally speaking, the issues that you want to address are that style of training may put your joints at high risk. I know most bodybuilders I've ever met have, due to the fact this purely focus on aesthetics, they put their joints at risk because of the imbalance of the structure, right? That's what you hear Cameron and I talking about. But with the eating, you know what? We need to provide a similar stimulus with quality of movement in the weight room with what we're going to do, which is not too hard to do while building an athletic body. As long as you have a good coach who's got an eye for quality of movement and understands basic lifts, big compound lifts, you're going to be able to put on some muscle. But you do have to eat. And then in the case of eating, I would borrow from, if you want to get big, I'd borrow from a more bodybuilding standpoint, which is, hey, lots of lean proteins, lots of starch complex carbs. I mean, you look at a bodybuilder's refrigerator, he got all these containers, he's eating all the freaking time. And to the point of serious discomfort, to be honest, is you want to get as big as you can get. You're eating to the point, you're eating high quality food, so it's not like you're eating like these super dense caloric foods. You're eating high quality foods that actually have mass to them. It's not most of what they're eating is not liquid calories. They're eating
So is there a balance?
broccoli
Is there a
and
balance
chicken
between
breast.
protein, carbohydrates, fat? Does that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely ratios for all these macronutrients. That's what you're referring to. But again, it's not my area of expertise. So, what I would do is I would talk to someone with a bodybuilding background, and so work off some macros with that. So Cameron might have a little more insight into that, given that. So like, I'm just naturally a stocky dude.
Yeah.
I train, and all the people I train in the same movement system and all the same recommendations I make for nutrition, they're all lean. I don't know what the heck happened to me. I mean, they're like compact and long and lean. It's just my genetic makeup makes people ask me like, hey, how do you get big? I'm like, man, I was born, and this is the way I'm programmed, But if you're trying to change your body from someone who's more naturally thin and literally change the way your body perceives itself, you're gonna have to provide some pretty constant stimulus with food. And the thing about it is like, for me, is like, don't sacrifice quality of food when you try to increase the total intake of food. And I'll keep it simple in terms of, I don't like to comment on things I don't really have a lot of experience on, but that's what I would really, really suggest anybody who's taking on this goal, taking on this mission, to keep that in mind.
Cameron, what are you eating, Cameron?
I was just going to say, like, along the same lines, I think we should just, if we take a logical approach to how we're going to be consuming our nutrition, it should fall in line with everything else that we're doing. So we just talked about how important quality of movement is, quality of training, and understanding what types of training are going to do what to our body, right? So I think it's important that if you're somebody that's really interested in understanding how to fuel your body, it's something that you should take the time to invest and learn about the best, most qualitative ways to do that. So kind of like John was saying, you'd never want to sacrifice the quality of what you're consuming just for a caloric surplus, right? Like, you don't want to just eat more calories for the sake of eating more calories. It becomes important to understand that the quality of our training is just as important as the quality of our nutrition, and vice versa, and things like that. So I think that if you take a logical approach and you understand that when you're breaking your body down with training, you want to be able to give it, like I talked about before, all the types of resources you can in order to build it back up, right? So if you're consuming these nutrient-dense kind of earth-grown foods, at that point you're receiving all of the macronutrients you need, the protein, carbs, and fat that you might need in certain balances depending on who you are, what your genetic makeup is, like John talked about, what your particular needs are, which is something that we would certainly have to refer out in terms of having somebody that's more has more expertise in that area. But I think the micronutrients is a huge part as well. So like all of the smaller, vitamins and things like that can add and really complement all of the macros. And it's just they're all just tools that's being used to help build the body to be as efficient and as strong and as powerful as it can possibly be, So I think that's kind of my 2 cents in that regards. It's just making sure that it falls in line with the whole quality of everything else.
So adding all these extra calories to my diet, usually I probably, on a regular day, maybe eat between 1,300 and 1,500 calories. That's all I eat, right? So I need to jack that up. I need to get higher. So and I know that, but my question is gaining fat inevitable as I try to put on size?
Something that Cameron hit on is hormonal environment. So strength training as a particular stimulus will provide a particular hormonal stimulus. Your eating provides, and timing of eating, type of micronutrients also contribute to a hormonal environment. When you're trying to alter your outward, the outward look and performance of your body, to be honest, optimizing the hormonal environment is the goal, because hormones drive body function. They're like they're the things that send the signal that tell the whole body what it should become, essentially. So when you're eating 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 calories, you're telling your body something. but it's not grow. Okay, it's not grow. It's become.
Sometimes I'm just not hungry, John.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like, you want to get jacked, you're not hungry, eat anyway. You know, and it's an unfortunate, uncomfortable truth is that you're going to be uncomfortably full a lot, and especially if you're focused on quality foods, you're not going to, if you have broccoli, sweet potatoes, chicken breasts, and all this stuff, you're not going to be processing that in very effectively or efficiently into body fat. Those foods don't process effectively or efficiently into body fat. Digesting it almost negates the ability to do so. But those resources that Cameron was talking about, those are available for your body, your muscles to rebuild, for you to recover. And that's why the quality of the food is so important. Is you want to minimize fat mass gain, then that's really important. Focus on the quality of the food. Eat more often, eat more in total, but quality of the food. And then the secondary thing is, like, if you do want to gain more muscle faster, you may have a more ideal hormonal environment if you do allow for some body fat gain, because that is a telltale sign of what resources are available in your body as well. Some people, when you're really lean, don't build mass. And so, there's different ranges in terms of body fat where you may be more primed to gain muscle or where you're not going to. So, but that's kind of a range, and it's different for everybody. It's like, as Cameron was saying, is like, really we would need to sit down and go over phases of looking at how different stimulus, how your body responds to different stimulus. You can see, like, hey, this is a good template, but you still have to assess. And then that assessment process is ongoing. Like, hey, we change one new variable, we see how your body responds. We change another variable, we see how your body responds. This is how training is. This is how nutrition is. It's a process, and there's no one end all be all. So, just want to make sure we talk about that. Yeah, if you want to get jacked, you might eat enough and gain a little bit of fat. If you're eating 1,400 calories a day, to be honest, as you ramp up, your body's not going to know what to do with a lot of that, because you've made your body so efficient at using a minimal amount of calories that it may start storing fat before it starts gaining muscle.
But that can change.
That can change, yeah. I mean, it's everybody's different, every body's different, and what you've done up to this point is basically what's determining what those things look like.
Yeah, I think it's to kind of sum all that up in two words, the answer is it depends, right? So it's just everything with training, with nutrition, with recovery, whatever it might be. The truest answer out there is that it depends. It just depends on who you are, and everybody's different. Everyone has a completely different genetic makeup. Everybody's so variable. And it just becomes the job of us, or if we're, working in conjunction with a nutritionist or whoever it might be, while they're fueling our clients or our athletes, we just have to understand that it depends. It's just we have to monitor the whole thing the whole time. It's something that we've become a lot bigger with on the training side, is being able to monitor everything, track everything from a progression standpoint. And we just want to make sure that if something doesn't work, we need to understand why it might not work, and then, kind of understand the next step to take from there. So I think the biggest answer with all of this stuff, especially nutrition, is that it just depends.
Okay. So to kind of wrap this all up, obviously not everyone has a DeFranco's gym and Onnit Academy in their backyard. For people that don't have that luxury, are there any resources you guys would recommend? What should they look for if they're looking for a trainer in their area? If they want to try to gain some muscle, but do it in the ways you guys were talking about, what's your suggestions there?
Well, I think something that's always helped me and also helped me deliver to my clients is being able to look into and read from different resources and different disciplines. So I think it's important to understand that in order for a muscle to really grow in the most effective way, it has to be exposed to a bunch of different types of things. So it's not just about like, hey bro, we're gonna do like really heavy weight and just get after it. It's also not just like, hey, I think I'm gonna get lean and cut if I do like really lightweight for a lot of reps, right? So it's like, if you look at like the continuum of strength training, there's a huge continuum where you go from anywhere from really, really heavy to really, really light, and minimal reps, 1 rep, or a lot of reps, like 20 reps, and you have to understand that you have to kind of cross that whole broad spectrum of everything that you're doing, and you also have to expose your muscle a little bit to being able to contract fast, so power development types of exercises and things like that. So I think if it's somebody that's training on their own, it's important to understand how to train your muscle for power, strength, hypertrophy, which is muscle building, and then also how to make sure it's functioning from an endurance standpoint. Because if you're training all of those qualities, you're getting every type of muscle fiber stimulated that you can. And I think that it's important that if you're training on your own, to be able to understand that there's more than one way to train, and you have to kind of experiment and figure out different things. And if you're looking for somebody that's training you need someone that's adaptable. So you need somebody that's able to create a program for you, but it's able to adapt as you adapt. So that's kind of how the whole training process is that your body's constantly adapting to everything that it's being exposed to. So the same thing isn't going to work forever. It's just not. So you have to be able to adapt, try different things, try new things. So I think from that standpoint, it's all a lot of self-experimentation, but it's also being able to go out and find the people that are willing to take the time to kind of learn all of these different things. And being able to deliver it to you so that you can get the best results that you can get. So, whether it's you on your own reading all this stuff yourself, or just trying to find someone that is going to kind of introduce some novel stimuli to you. So one of the best quotes I ever heard was from Buddy Morris, who's the head strength coach for the Arizona Cardinals in the NFL. And he had a quote one time that said, "When the body stops learning, it stops growing." So I thought that was pretty interesting. So you always have to kind of introduce some things to the body to keep it it's not muscle confusion like people think, where you're like changing your program every week. You're giving your body the ability to adapt to what you're giving it, and then you're just kind of giving it more complex things. So it's just kind of introducing more advanced techniques over time. Like we talked about, you're not going to train your beginner like you are your more advanced guy. So you have to keep giving the body stuff to learn from so that it can continue to grow and progress. So
right on.
Well, I think everything that Cameron said is really important, that you need coaches that are invested, that are adaptable, and have been there. You know what I mean? So, like, you don't want a tour guide. You don't want a guide that's never been up the mountain before, right? So the whole process is to have somebody there that you trust, that you're willing to have a relationship with. That's what, it's a really important human element to this whole thing.
Psychological.
Big
time.
Like if you're fearful, you fail fast, and you're not resilient to that failure. If you have someone you trust to take you on the process, they can see where the pitfalls are ahead of you. They know where they are. They've even fallen in them before, and for that reason, they can really facilitate the process so much better. And in that case, a lot of people, I've been really lucky to work with a lot of other coaches in a lot of movement systems, and I value a lot of them. I think that it's really great that both DeFranco systems, CPPS certified trainers are very broad in their knowledge base and their application. For getting swole, I would really seek out one of those guys. If you're looking to move better and play with a variety of unconventional tools and still potentially have the potential to have a coach that's can guide you down the process of getting bigger and stronger too. The Onnit Academy certified trainers that we've been able to develop and work with are going to be able to guide you down that process. And I think in the telling sign of both of those types of systems and those types of people that have invested in those systems are adaptable in the way that Cameron's talking about. They're going to be able to see and vary the stimulus as you progress so that you're not stuck. You're not pigeonholed. Like if you work with just a powerlifting coach, what are you going to do? You're just going to power lift. And what happens when that stimulus is no longer what it is that serves you best? You still power lift, And so that's kind of something that I'll wave those flags really quickly because they're both things I'm really proud of. And the nice thing about those systems is that they allow those coaches to also incorporate. If say an Onnit Academy trainer likes to power lift, they incorporate powerlifting into that systematic approach. Same thing with CPPS is even part of their system to use, these big compound lifts that, and that's why I would say if you want to get jacked, I would seek out a CPPS coach.
Cool. So where can people keep up with you guys? What's your social media accounts?
My social media account is just my name. It's @CamJosse, CamJosse. That's on Instagram and Twitter. And you can find me on Facebook too, just my name, Cameron Josse. And then I'll be keeping up routinely with making videos for the DeFranco's YouTube channel and all of that stuff. So, I'm just all involved with everything that Joe DeFranco's doing, and all of his media outlets and everything like that. You can find me on pretty much any of that stuff. So
Cool. Mr. Wolf?
Yo, hit me up on Facebook. John Wolf is the coaching. You have to hit me up on the coaching profile page because got too many friends, man. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. That's kind of upsetting. Like, I like making friends and traveling and everything. I'm like, I want to add the people that came to the seminar, and then Facebook's punked me out, man. Just make sure I can't add
Come
more
see your
friends.
neighborhood Lando, and
And the
he
thing
can
about it
fix
is, I
your
know these
social media
people,
woes.
man. I want them to be my friends too. So no, anything professional, I try to separate. I have a personal profile page. So if you look up John Wolf on Facebook, look at the coach page, because then that's all the content that has to do with Onnit and all the exciting stuff we have going on. And then on Instagram, I'm Lone Wolf 707. I'm not alone anymore. I was a pack of one, and now I have my pack here at Onnit.
Not exactly alone anymore.
Cameron, Josse, and Orlando. yeah. So it's been great. Check out those two profiles. You'll be able to keep up to date with a lot of exciting stuff that's going to be coming up with Onnit Academy, DeFranco's gym, and all the things that we have planned. This is all the beginning.
I also want to point out that we have Onnit Academy certifications going on all over the country now. You don't have to come to Austin. There's some other cities you can go learn how to use these tools effectively. You want to list some of the cities you got coming up, or what we have coming up?
Yeah, I'll be in June. I'll be in Costa Mesa. We have another one here in Austin in June. In July, I'll be in Chicago. September, I'll be in the Boston area, Dover, New Hampshire. We're lining up something in Washington, D.C., Long Island, New Jersey. I'll be in Miami again.
Jersey.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, I'm in your neck of the woods. Be
All
back
right.
in Miami again. When it's cold in Austin, I'll be in Miami. Just know that, all right? I got that set up. So, no, we have a lot of these events coming up. So many that, I'm spending nearly half the time traveling these days to offer these things. So it's an exciting time.
Yeah. So everybody, you guys can go to onnit.com/academy. And I guess the certification signups are there.
Certification tab.
Yeah. Also check out Onnit's Facebook. We're starting to list all those events. John's giving me a ton of them to add every single day. And make sure to visit us on iTunes and send a review, rate us, tweet on it. Let us know what kind of content you want on the podcast. We'll do it. Thanks, John. Thanks, Cameron. I'm going to go eat a snack now and go pump some iron later. Peace out, everyone. Thank you.